Well, I guess it's time for me to be cynical about the future of the film industry again. I uploaded my last one nearly a year ago and saw that you guys really seem to like my opinions on things, so you know what? I'm gonna keep sharing them, unapologetically and without holding back. So, like a wise old bearded man in a rocking chair with a big hat and a stogie, I've got a story to tell you. A while back, I was laying down one night debating with my family what movie we should watch. I don't remember any of the specific choices that we had in mind, but I do remember the way that we pitched each movie. We'd usually start by reading the log line, and if it sounded interesting enough, then we'd look down at the cast to see who was actually in it, because when choosing the ideal movie to watch, the main actor usually has a very strong draw for us. Usually. Nowadays, this new generation of actors just doesn't have the same draw as the older ones. The general thought is that we're going to go see that new Jim Carrey movie or that new Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, but the plot wasn't as important as the star who's in it. And for older movies, we generally didn't care much about the other factors because if we knew someone we really liked was in it, then we knew it was going to be good. But nowadays, everything is completely shifted. Cillian Murphy and Robert Downey Jr. weren't the reason I saw Oppenheimer. It just looked like a fun movie, and I was going in a sue with some friends because of the trend, and I'm sure that most people didn't think of it as that new Cillian Murphy movie or vice versa. They just wanted to see the next big thing, and I don't think this is unique to Oppenheimer. Every movie has a certain aspect about it that gets people excited about it. Maybe it's the actors, maybe it's the plot, or something from some trailer, so here's a little hypothetical question. Think of the most recent movie you watched. It can be in theaters, or your house, it doesn't matter. What about this movie, based on what you knew about it, made you decide that you wanted to watch it? Was it just released in theaters? Maybe some of your friends decided to go see it and you went with? Did you watch the trailer? Maybe there was some really great moment that stood out to you? Was it at home and you decided to watch it because you didn't know what else to watch? Or did you know that there was an actor that you really like in the movie? Maybe that helped guide your decision a little bit, but was that the deal breaker? There aren't very many actors that if I saw were in a movie, it would instantly make me decide, yes, I want to watch that one. And I know I'm not the only one that feels that way. My point is that right now we're witnessing the slow death of the movie star in real time. Because until very recently, this was a massive draw for movies, and now it's becoming less and less of a priority. Let's say you're a writer, and you've spent the last few months of your life writing a full-length feature script set in the desert of Egypt, and you decide that you want to pitch that to Universal Studios. It's much easier for Universal to get behind the idea if they know there will be a big name involved. So theoretically, let's say that they agreed to make the film only if Brendan Fraser is involved, because he's famous and relevant and would draw in a bunch of people. Because judging by Brendan Fraser's movies, people really like him and would be more likely to see it if he's in the movie. The film industry calls this idea star power, and it's been going on for the better part of the last century with actors like Jimmy Stewart, Harrison Ford, and Tom Cruise being big examples of it. Because with their names and faces all over the promotional material, they're basically guaranteeing an inherent audience will see the movie. For those actors, anyway. Sometimes movies are able to get away with using an actor who doesn't have a big built-in audience. Case in point, The Batman, a 3-hour movie that made over $1 billion in its theatrical run, and was very positively received by audiences. It was so successful that Warner Brothers announced multiple sequels. Now, I imagine that most of you watching this video have seen The Batman. Did you see it because of Robert Pattinson, Zoe Kravitz, Colin Farrell, Andy Serkis, or anyone else who was in the movie? Because if we're going by star power, I don't think any of Robert Pattinson's Twilight fan base were interested in Batman. None of my friends saw it for any of the cast, and I'm willing to bet that the vast majority of people did not care in the slightest. The reason that millions of people went to the theaters to see The Batman is very simple and very obvious.
Because I'm Batman.
Because it's a Batman movie. And I mean, who would have thought, right? That a character who's been a fan favorite for the better part of the last century would draw in a ton of people? Of course he would. Because he's Batman. And in all fairness, the first trailer also played a really big part in it. But my point is that for a movie like The Batman, the actor isn't really the star. It's the character. This goes for most superhero movies as well. Quentin Tarantino said something very similar about Marvel.
You have all these actors who have become famous playing these
parts,
characters,
yeah.
but they're not movie stars.
Right.
Captain America is the star.
Right.
Thor is the star. I mean, I'm not the first person to say that. I think that's been said a zillion times. But it's like it's these franchise characters that become a star.
The superheroes being the stars of the movie isn't a bad thing. It's just different than how the rest of the film industry operates. And he clearly doesn't like it because he is the film industry. The truth is that outside of big franchises, movie stars just aren't being made anymore. Hollywood is trying, but it just hasn't worked the same way. Because not to be mean to the guy, but is there a single person alive who saw Dune because of Timothée Chalamet?
Cut!
Movie stars used to be treated like borderline deities. Lucille Ball is someone that everybody who wasn't living under a rock knew. Millions of people watched I Love Lucy, but outside of being the face of the show, nobody knew who she was at the time, but they loved her character. She went on to produce a bunch of shows, and there's now a gazillion documentaries about her, but with no social media or any direct publicity from her, the lines were blurred and it was easier to directly link the actor to the character and interpret the collective work of talented writers creating a fun and likable character as being the genuine personality of the actor, which in most cases just isn't true. We live in the age of social media where people can post whatever they want on the internet, and now actors are able to easily let the world know who they really are, for better or worse. In most cases, it's a bad thing, because to put it bluntly, actors aren't typically the brightest bunch of people.
3 bars! Actor.
And love to use their popularity to run their mouths about political issues that shouldn't concern them in the slightest. How often have you seen actors come out and show their support for a particular presidential candidate, or use their social media to publicly express hatred for another? Because lately, it's been happening a lot, and it's objectively doing them more harm than good. And don't get me wrong, I think that as long as the personal views of these actors are strictly kept off the set, then it shouldn't matter at all, and people should just learn to separate their work from their personal life. After all, I'm assuming that the majority of you watching are American, and we all have the right to say, think, agree, and disagree with whatever the hell we want, but in my humble opinion, disassociating based on someone's views is pathetic because there's more to everyone than what they agree with politically. But when a celebrity gives their opinion on anything, and I mean anything on the internet, there will always be people who get upset over it. So when marketing a movie, it's just smarter to stay quiet, smile, and say that the movie is great and you loved working on it. In other words, just shut up and do your job. Because free speech isn't viable in the film business, since no matter what you say, people will always find a way to hate you for it. The sad truth of it is that the more famous you are, the less rights you have to speak. It's a constant subtle threat of losing your entire livelihood over sharing your opinion. Since celebrities are able to say whatever they want on the internet, we have greater insight into who they are, and they don't hold the same level of intrigue as previous generations of actors. The time when we knew nothing about the actors in our favorite movies has passed, and honestly, I think it's a good thing. I don't think anybody should be afraid to talk about what they believe in, and if you ever get the chance to talk to an actor or any celebrity in person, you'll find that they're all just normal people. Some of them are pleasant, and others are assholes, and that's fine. They're just like you and me, and there's no reason to treat them like gods, because believe me, they're not. They're normal everyday people, just with a lot of publicity. They're the kind strangers you nod at in the city. They're the Karens that hold up the line at coffee shops ordering drinks that sound like spell incantations. They're the everyday worker you pass by in your local grocery store. They're the crazy old man shouting about the apocalypse while running naked in the streets. They're the gamers that shout racial slurs and throw their controllers at lethal speed after losing a game of Search and Destroy. They're the dumbass YouTubers that make entire videos that are just long, circular, arbitrary, pointless, nonsensical yapping sessions. And outside of just a few big-name actors like Tom Cruise and Arnold Schwarzenegger who existed before Gen Z, the idea of the movie star has been slowly fading away, which, honestly, I think it's a really good thing. I think it's great that we as a society are slowly moving away from the idea of treating these guys like gods and instead are looking at them as what they really are, just people doing a job. Because the whole idea of movie stars is a falsely idealized perception of who somebody really is, and now it's great that we know who most of these people really are, instead of pretending that we do. If you want to know who I really am, then subscribe to my channel where I make a lot of videos like this about things that I enjoy, and join my new Discord in the description of the video to be a part of my community and join in on discussions. But anyways, that's pretty much everything I got here, so see ya.